Hi, welcome to MyMoney123. Just a quick note before we start, this program is not intended to be a financial advice as defined in the Act, but rather to be used as an educational tool to help you start your own financial planning journey. This program is brought to you by the FBI, the professional body in South Africa controlling the CFP and other designations. You might be asking yourself, why do I need a financial plan? Well, it's to enable you to organize your finances in such a way to put you in the best position to meet your lifetime financial goals. When choosing which financial professional to work with, it's always a good place to start to look for someone with the CFP professional designation. The reason for this is that you can be assured that these professionals adhere to the highest ethical and practice standards that always put your needs in front of their own. They also have a postgraduate qualification and have passed a rigorous board exam. They also need to have at least 3 years experience working in the financial services sector. So you can be assured that you are dealing with a real professional. Clients that deal with CFP professionals are more confident that they will reach their lifetime financial goals. The reason for this is possibly the high ratings they give CFP professionals for firstly honesty and integrity, completely understanding their needs and placing their needs above their own. Your next question might be, but where do I find a CFP professional? You can go to www.fpi.co.za. Out of over 100,000 registered financial advisors, only 4,600 are registered as certified financial planning professionals. So you can be assured when dealing with one of them, you are dealing with the best of the best. In this program, we will be primarily looking at 3 areas. Firstly, dealing with your budget and how to put an efficient budget together that will move your financial plan forward. Secondly, we will look at debt, how to deal with debt and what's good debt and bad debt. And lastly, when you've sorted out the first 2 parts, you can move on to investing, and we'll give you some tips and tools there that you can practically implement in your own life to jumpstart your financial plan.
Budgeting is arguably the most important part of your financial plan. Without a clear budget, you open the door for failure in the future. With that in mind, how many of you know how much of your income goes towards groceries? How many of you know how much of your income goes towards cell phone and internet expenses? If you're not sure, you need a budget. A budget will help you to track all your expenses, even if it's something small like a takeaway coffee. After about 2 months, you'll start to see certain trends in your budget, whether that is shortfalls or surpluses. To set up your budget, you need more or less 30 minutes per month, and you'll need your monthly bank statement. We have built an Excel budgeting tool. To use the tool, you can scan the QR code here. If you want the process to be automated, you can go on the App Store or Play Store and add the 24/7 app on your phone. Or you can use any other budgeting app. After you've sorted out your budget, the second step that you need to look at is your debt. The word debt makes most people shiver in fear, and it's understandable. It's a very difficult topic to handle. First and foremost, before you look at your debt, you need to understand what a credit score is. A credit record contains all the information about your payment and financial history, whether good or bad. So if, for instance, you missed a payment, that will go on your credit record. If you continue paying your premiums, let's say at an insurance company, that will also be added to your credit record. Your credit record determines what type of interest you qualify for. Obviously, if you have a good credit record, you will get a good interest rate. A bad credit record will ensure that you get very high interest rates, or you might not even qualify for a loan.
A lot of people wonder how they got into a situation when dealing with an excess amount of debt. I think at that point the most important thing is not necessarily to look at how you got into the debt, but rather to plan how are you going to get out of it. I think the first step is to identify what is good debt and what is bad debt. Good debt can be identified whether or not there's an asset behind that debt, for example a home or a car, or if it's just a personal loan or a credit card where there's no asset attached to that debt. Once you've identified that, you can start formulating a plan to pay off your debt and move forward with your financial planning. For anyone that has spent more than 10 minutes on the internet or driving down any road in the last couple of years, you would have seen a myriad of different billboards and ads advertising a new loan or a new type of loan or a different way to get access to more funds. I think a lot of the financial institutions have been too willing to offer credit to the customers without checking if they can really afford it. For example, if we look at just simple store credit that you can find in most shops in South Africa now, you'll see that you pay a significant premium on the item that you're actually purchasing. For example, when buying this laptop in store, you will pay 4,799 Rand in cash, whereas if you were to buy it on credit for 317 Rand, which sounds very reasonable, over a period of 24 months, you would pay a whopping 7,608 Rand, meaning you'll pay 165% of the total purchase price for the exact same item. When looking at this television that you can buy for 3,799, you can also opt to buy it on credit for an amount as small as 260 Rand over 24 months. While this sounds cheap, that will bring your total for the same television up from 3,799 to 6,240 Rand, which equates to 164% of the total purchase price. And lastly, when looking at buying this washing machine for 2,999 versus buying it on a loan agreement for 213 Rand over 24 months, you will pay a total of 5,112 Rand. That is 170% of the total value that you will pay. As you can see from these examples, there is a significant premium to buy something on debt, even if it seems like a very small amount in your monthly budget. So if you cannot afford to buy something in cash, it's usually better to save for it or to reconsider the item you're buying. When looking on how to get out of debt, it's important to know what you owe. So a good method that we've found is simply to write down a list of all your debts and the interest rates that you pay on each item. Because you pay the most money on the items with the higher interest rates, it's always advisable to pay them off first. So when looking at your table of debt, you start and increase the payments where possible, where your budget allows it, to the debt item with the highest interest rate. As soon as that one is complete, you tackle the next one and the next one and the next one until your debt is zero. When looking at or considering whether you should pay off your longer term debts, for example a home loan, at a quicker rate, it's always advisable to reconsider how this or to consider how this affects the rest of your financial plan. And for this, I would usually recommend speaking to a CFP professional. After you've successfully paid off all your bad debt, you can look at starting your investment journey.
Now that you have settled your debt, we are looking at your savings and investments and all of the factors that you need to consider before making the investment. Albert Einstein once said that compounding interest is the 8th wonder of the world. It's investing money over time, is adding interest on interest on interest. So let's make use of an example here. Investor 1 saves 1,000 Rand per month for 10 years and stop. Investor 2 starts after 10 years and saves 1,500 Rand per month over 20 years, and he wouldn't come close to what investor 1 saved over the same period. The effect of compounding interest is staying invested for the long term. It's mostly effective in retirement savings where you have the time to save and make use of compounding interest and earning interest on interest on interest. Inflation is how prices increase over time. It's on everyday items, for example, food, rent, property, and everything in between. Inflation is 3%, but we can't see it in everyday use once again. For example, if you could go to the shop, food prices increase almost on a monthly basis. Let's say you have 60 Rand and in 2018 you could buy 6 cans of baked beans. In 2020 you could buy 5, but if you go to the shop with the 60 Rand you will only be able to buy 3. So in other words, you are buying less for the same amount of money. Ideally, you want your money to grow with inflation so that you can still buy the 6 cans of baked beans today. A way to measure inflation is also called CPI, Consumer Price Index. It compares certain basket of goods over a period of time. For example, in 2019, you could have bought a full trolley of groceries, but if you go to the shop today, you would only be able to buy half a trolley with the same amount of money. Inflation affects everything, from food, petrol and rent. Your rent will be going up next year because your landlord needs more money as well. You need to invest your money to grow at least with inflation. In order for your money to grow with inflation, you need to be invested in risk. Most people do not want to take any risk, but they still want their money to grow and earn interest over time. If you want to invest your money to grow above inflation, you need to invest your money in higher asset classes, and if you've gotten the time, you can take on the risk. The riskier asset classes mostly involve property, shares and offshore investments. The key is how long do you have for your investment, because that will determine what asset class you will invest in. If you want to save for your child's education, you can speak to your financial advisor. Let's say you have 5 years and you want X amount of money. They will suggest that you invest a bit of equity and in property, but to level out, a big portion will go to bonds and to protect your money because the term isn't that long. You can use a CFP professional to help you understand the diversification and assist you with the right mix of asset classes to achieve your financial goals. If you have the time, you can let your money grow more than inflation using the risky asset classes, but none of the funds have guarantees. As I mentioned before, you need to ask yourself, is this a short, medium or long-term investment? Are you saving for a holiday or boat cruise for over a year or two? Or are you saving for your child's tertiary studies? in 5 to 10 years, or are you saving for a long term, like your retirement savings? How much do you need to retire with? That's a whole different question, because everybody's need is different. People need to understand it's their own responsibility to start saving for retirement. It's not their parents or their children's, or neither is it the government's.
Going forward, here are some important aspects to consider. First and foremost, ensure that your budget is in place. Secondly, see where you can improve and reduce your debt. Thirdly, see where you can improve your savings and set yourself some short and long-term goals. The fifth point to consider is your current estate plan. See if you have a valid will in place. Number 6, see if you have adequate insurance cover. And lastly, include your children in your money discussions and educate them where possible. Thank you.